guys, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here. We're finally back for Age of Darkness. Johnny was busy, and then he's like, I'm going to go to Hamilton. Fuck you guys. And we were like, what? How rude. And so
I was busy.
So he
Don't you blame me for 2 weeks ago. I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
He abandoned us for 2 weeks, and we cried so much, and we had no idea what to do about it.
I cried 3 times.
We did cry 3 absolutely separate times.
I'm just going to point out 2 things. Number one, we are recording Saturday, and I'm going to mess with your character until he is dead.
Great. Speaking of recording Saturday, guys, what you just heard in the intro was our brand new podcast. Go check it out. It's Dark Fortunes. Google it. Search it on every available platform. It's there. That being said, if you guys want to support this channel or that podcast, please go check us out on Patreon. If you want to talk about any of those things, please join us in the Discord. And last thing of the night, if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you will see the corruption bar. That serves 2 purposes. Purpose 1 is when it fills, Johnny gets to do whatever the hell he wants to us. But more importantly, every single dollar that goes into that goes back to the wonderful, beautiful, amazing faces that you see here before you. That being said, Johnny, please take us into the world of Thra.
I don't know if I have to. All right. Here we go. Previously on Age of Darkness, the Gurukita had Nock on the ground, ready for the kill. Taking advantage of the moment when the creature hesitated, Nock is able to use the Song of Thra and befuddle it. Backing away from him, the Gurukita leaves itself open for the rest of the group to attack. Through a combination of actions, Alua finally drops the creature by hitting it directly in the snout and knocking it out. Danger averted for the moment, the group makes an assessment of the situation. Toll decides to survey the surrounding area, concerned that they might be surprised and attacked again. The concern appears to be unfounded until he spots something moving off in the distance to the east. That something appears to be moving southwest in the same general direction that the group is traveling. With this information in mind, the group continues on their journey south to Tog's village. As night begins to fall, the podling Tog refuses to make the last steps of the journey. Deciding to camp for the night in the southern fields of the Sprighton Plain, Alua takes a turn in assessing the situation. What she finds is unsettling. The line of things moving in the southwest direction continues their progress. It's likely the group will come into contact with them shortly. The news spurs a quick discussion and the group springs to action. Toll knocks Tog out and the group moves swiftly south to the safety of the podling village. The village, however, is anything but safe. In fact, it's empty. Toll investigates as the rest of the group hangs back and watches for any sign of the impending visitors. When Toll reports back that the village is in fact empty, the group makes a decision to wake Tog. The podling opens his eyes, realizes the situation, and moves to action. Directing the group to move towards a grove of trees far from the village, he signals other podlings hidden in the trees there. Tog and the group are given aid to ascend into the trees as the unknown visitors finally arrive. Taking in the sight from the platform on the edge of the tree's grove, the group gets their first glance at monstrous crab-like creatures moving towards the village. When Toll overextends himself while trying to get a clearer view of the creatures, he slips and begins to fall. Velfa rushes to his aid, but the effort reveals their existence in the trees. As we fade in, one of the monstrosities moves to investigate where the noise came from. Now, where we previously left the 4 of you was on the edge of that tree canopy on a platform that was considered the most stable that you've seen. Tog, the podling, is there with you, and Velfa has just kind of pulled you back, but the impending action actually cracked a branch and made a noise. One of the monstrosities kind of turned around and began to advance basically onto the path and looked in your general direction. And what you saw was grotesque, at least 6 feet tall, covered in what looks like shell and glistening sort of like material. One, with large monstrous, crab or lobster claws, and walking on a number of legs that you can't quite count from this direction. Its head is sort of like hidden, tucked inside of its shell, this big shell that's on its back. And there are 2 purple eyes darting back and forth and looking in the general direction. What are you guys doing?
Can I try to use my magic to Oh shit, actually I just realized my current intellect pool is at 8 of 18. Fuck. All right, well, I mean, if we die here, it doesn't matter what my intellect is. So I will still use a magic. And I will try to cause like a rustling of leaves or like a breaking branch or something like in another direction to try to like get it to go over there instead. So
your magic is based on music and song. How are you doing this in a way that that more mimics the sound that you're looking for here? The whole
maybe it's like throwing his voice, but like somehow with music. I don't know how that would work other than magical bullshit, but like it's like he's playing, but the sound it comes out and ends up affecting a different area.
Okay, this is going to be a difficulty 5.
Oh no. Okay.
Well, so this thing is already alerted to your presence.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not like complaining about the difficulty. It totally makes sense to me. It's a no because that's hard.
Well, you're welcome to find somebody to either assist you, or you can definitely apply some effort.
All right. So I have to.
How is he making this magic? How I'm asking as a third party. Sam, how are you making this magic happen?
So like it's all like through his music and like basically trying to like match it's like trying to like play in concert with the music of Thra in order to kind of change things and like evoke change in the land and make things happen. Okay. But I think like probably like on a more mechanical and like more like a less like overt way, like it probably is like drawing some energy from him in some way, right? That's like why he can only do it so many times before he runs out of that intellect pool.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to assist by looking through the canopy of trees here and telling Nock where to make the noise happen for best effect to draw these creatures far enough away from us.
I like that. My spotter.
Okay. And are you applying effort on top of that?
No, because I can't afford it. I got 7 intellect left. That'll be real bad.
Yep, totally.
Because I gotta spend 1 just to like activate my magic here. All right, cool. So we'll roll it up. Intellect, difficulty 5. I've got 1 asset. Oh yeah!
Wow, nice.
Very nice.
All right, so. Cole, tell me what you see in respect to indicating to Nock where he should be. Like what is it about the landscape that you see that makes that you think is the right place to sort of do the distraction?
Yeah. There is a small copse of trees closer towards the village that if he were to rustle this branch, this specific branch that I'm pointing out, it would there's like a set of like nuts on it that would shake loose and make an even louder noise than just the rustle of branches through the wind, right? It will actually drop this and make it sound like something has crunched, a leaf or some kind of foliage underfoot.
Okay. And so Nock, as he points this out to you, narrate us a little bit through sort of the beginning of this sort of this effect that you're going for, this noise effect that Toll has kind of pointed out, and I'll kind of take that from there, and we'll find out what happens.
Yeah. So I think like Nock like starts playing his horn, and it like seems like it should be kind of happening as normal, where it's like this kind of weird like music of nature that we've kind of seen in the past. But instead of coming out of the horn or like coming out of like the horn and the area around Knock, it's like is like him throwing his voice, right? It's like him doing a parlor trick. We like hear it coming almost as though it's coming from like a shrub or like some sort of, you know, something that Toll pointed out for him. And it's lots of like rustling of leaves and cracking of branches, basically just trying to mimic the type of sound we made that drew their attention in the first place, right?
All right. So the rustling begins in the trees and it gets louder. There's no wind, but the noise just begins to kind of build of the rustling, and then a couple of branches crack. And as that happens, as Toll described, this particular, you know, group of trees are nut bearing, and all of a sudden the fruit, the nut fruit, just kind of it starts to sort of trickle down, and it's light at first, very, you know, there's just a few of them, but as the magic continues, and as you feel yourself sort of tapping into this, you know, this noise and experience, it's just, you know, beginning to kind of drop, and then there's more and more, and as that happens, the thing that you're all looking at in front of you turns, and you hear some clicking sounds, and then immediately makes a move, and that's when you're able to get a sense of how fast these things can actually move. It's moving at a running pace for a podling. So these things have a significant amount of speed. And as it's clicking and moving towards, you see a second one kind of move out with it and head towards those trees. Distracted for the moment, they begin to investigate, and you see these things start to slash out a little bit and start to hit, you know, with their monstrous claws, kind of hitting at the trunks of these trees, kind of like knocking a bunch more of the nut fruit kind of falling. But they're looking up, and they're kind of searching, and, you know, they're looking at the ground, and then they're looking up, and they appear to be distracted for the moment. You've got a moment here, guys. What are you doing?
Toll kind of looks to the podling village, right? Because there's like the majority of a village up here, and he just like puts a finger to his mouth, and then just sort of crouches down low on this like platform that we're on, right? He wants to make as little noise as possible to kind of let these things do whatever the hell they're doing that.
Okay, as you're kind of like having everybody stay quiet, and you see that after what appears to be about a minute or two, they're knocking back and forth, and they're the slashes that their claws are making inside of the branches, or it's not in the branches, on the trunks themselves. From a distance, they look very similar. And you can see that they're starting to get tired of what they're doing, and they're just kind of spreading out and beginning to kind of look around. And you notice in the background that the other ones that were kind of moving towards the village had continued on to the village, and they are now gone. And you hear thumping and rustling and crashing and smashing coming from the village area itself. There's a murmur that starts to build among the podlings that are caught up here in the branches. They're starting to get very, very scared.
Velfa, have you ever seen anything like that in any of your journals or books?
So Velfa's gonna like look up, and she's like kind of fully withdrawn and is kind of terrified. I've never really seen anything like that before. I'm not sure.
Judging by what it looked like, I think that's what attacked the Gelfling village. That's what was taking them. I've never seen anything like this in anything I've ever hunted.
Are you going to kill it, Toll?
If it were just one, it's like a herd of them. There's so many of them. I don't think. And he kind of like looks around at the podlings who are podlings. He's like, I don't think any of us combined could take out that many of them.
So you have a crossbow, right?
I do.
Can I do a perception roll to like see if I can notice if they have any weak points on their body? Being as they're similar to the spider things. I can't remember.
Aratham.
The
Aratham.
Aratham.
Right. You definitely can do a perception roll.
Okay.
Difficulty is also going to be 5.
Yeah. This is fine. If I spend an intellect point, do I put that into effort?
If you spend 3 intellect points, you would. Yeah.
What's your edge on intellect?
0. I haven't.
Yeah,
So you gotta spend
Yeah,
The
3.
cost
Yeah,
of 3,
you gotta spend 3.
You can increase it by 1 effort.
Sure.
Ooh.
Oh God. Let me try this again. So I put that in the effort
Yep.
thing? I
Yep.
can't remember. Okay, so 1. Did I roll that right? I don't feel like I rolled that right.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. It doesn't look like it's right because it says the difficulty is 1 instead of 5.
What the hell?
But it does say you're trained in effort. So,
Is it effort to roll or is it the second effort? That's what I got confused.
you're muted, Mike.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Dom.
Either way, it was a 5 with your training and your effort. That would have made it a 3, and a 9 beats a 3, I think, right? 9 times 3
So
is...
it'd be
Yeah, that's right.
Times, yeah,
a success, just all the same.
yes.
Wait.
All right. So as you're kind of paying attention to the way that these things are kind of like beginning to scurry around and move, you notice that in order to, kind of shift and move around and do their thing, their muscles kind of shift the shell just a little bit, off of their sort of their physical structure otherwise, and you can see exposed sort of gaps and joints and places around their neck. But so as they're kind of like moving and kind of flailing around, there's a little bit of effort or a little bit of like exposure to those areas. However, when they slow down or stop, they stop actually moving around in location. They're just kind of moving their body, like their arms or whatever. It's much harder to actually see those. So
Okay.
Those areas are exposed only when they're actually moving.
I'm gonna pull
like physically moving in a direction.
my group in close to me. Do you still have my candle or my torch? What did I give you, Knock?
It was a candle, I think.
I think it was the candle.
Sure.
I'm gonna take the candle from Knock. I'm gonna give it to Velfa. I'm gonna say, Knock, you keep making noises and keeping them moving. Toll, give me your arrows. And I start putting a piece of rope at the end of each arrow and then lighting it and handing it to him to shoot him with.
I
Can
Put a
have
lot of
me.
faith in my
I have
ability to
I have tinkering with devices if you'd like me to roll for that.
shoot. Ooh.
ooh.
Or I think that's the one that works the best. I need to use my making shit ability.
No, that's a cool idea. I like that. I'm wondering if I can help somehow because that's super cool.
Well, so
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that you necessarily needs to be rolled in respect to putting something rudimentary together in order to do this. So
Okay.
much so, I'm more thinking that there might be something that requires us to, or to figure out if they actually noticed this before. Like they notice you guys, because what you're basically doing is you're lighting something on fire before you're firing at them.
Yeah, which was why I was kind of thinking if Not kept making his weird noises, maybe
Yeah,
he'd
so
stay moving and be slightly distracted.
Okay.
Maybe that's
That makes
how
sense.
I'm helping you. Maybe that's how I'm helping.
Yeah, I was trying to give everybody a task.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I don't think you need
Bug
to roll
fire.
for this, but I think what you're talking about with Nox distraction absolutely makes complete sense. So
And we can I could take a foot off of my rope. I forget how long it was. 50 feet.
all right. So I'm going to say it takes you a couple of minutes to kind of rig this up, but what the two in front of you continue to do is they continue to widen their pattern as they're looking, even though they hear the noise coming from what Nock is doing. They continue to widen their pattern and keep looking around. but the noises coming from the village are farther off towards the south, and those continue to get louder as you hear more smashing and large amounts of like chittering and you know, clicking noises.
I wish I had a bow too, because I would try to help him shoot, but I only have a quarterstaff and my punch and my gloves.
So I'm assuming this becomes a toll thing
I guess I
again.
have to shoot these boys in the
You
shitty
do.
bits.
Oh yeah, and I point out the shitty bits. I forgot to say that.
Out
loud.
Johnny, what's the difficulty on shooting these boys?
Well, it's going to be 5 again.
Okay.
But again, you've got the assist because of, or the asset essentially because of what she's rigged up for you.
Okay.
And what she's figured out.
Do I need to take any points for that?
No.
So, difficulty?
No, you've made a successful roll. You've identified the situation. Nock is continuing to do what he's doing. And so, yeah, this becomes completely a toll situation. Difficulty 5, and then you've got the asset of the effort that Alua has already done for you, and it looks like you succeed.
Hell yeah!
All right.
I also spent effort on that, but yeah, I'm shooting this guy with fiery arrows in its danger zone.
Can I do something after? I didn't want to necessarily help with this, but as like a separate role, I'm hoping to like use my magic to basically like make it so like the fire is more spready. You know, have you if you've read the so I don't have a better way of describing it, but there's this.
I'm down with spready. Disperse sounds stupid at this point. I like spready. Let
me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. It's like, so there's the scene in The Hobbit, if you've ever read The Hobbit, where Gandalf lights a bunch of pine cones on fire and starts throwing them at the wolves, and he like does something magical to make them like surprisingly good at catching and spreading the fire between the wolves. So basically, I'm like trying to like use some magic to make this fire more spread between these folks. Exactly.
More spready.
Does that mean that like you're butter?
Does that mean that you're actually dropping your distraction when this bolt is fired?
Yeah, I mean, like once they're on fire, I don't think they're going to be worrying about sounds in the bushes.
Well, okay. So first, this thing fires out, and tell me generally where you're trying to hit this thing, Toll. Is it, sort of, around the region of the, where the legs are kind of moving? Is it somewhere along the body for the armor, or are you aiming for the head?
Neither. I'm aiming for wherever Alua mentioned.
I would say like it'd probably be like under the head or like armpit type area, because that would be the fleshiest bit,
right?
Yeah. Fleshy bits.
Yeah, so I'm aiming anywhere that it moves, and I can get between the this armor plating kind of thing.
All right. So the bolt kind of flies out of nowhere, from the grove of trees that you all are sort of caught up in, and it comes flying out and sailing towards this thing, and just kind of lands right in the shoulder, just under where the shell kind of meets part of the body, and you see like immediately it hunker down as that happens. And then the bolt actually snaps in half a little bit, but this thing is clearly got it embedded in it. And it's just starting to slowly, you can start to see that the fire is kind of catching just a little bit, at which point we're going to give Nock his opportunity to use like the magic of Thra to make this spread.
Spready magic.
Spready magic.
All right, ready, spready.
That sounds gross.
All right, this is probably closest to hedge magic.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else that's very close to this, so. All right. So I will spend down to 6 intellect points. What is my difficulty to this?
Our smart guy is getting so stupid. What happened?
Your difficulty.
I just need a rest, okay?
I just imagine like as he spends more of his points, he's just becoming more and more like drunk. Like just fucking like
It's just more difficult for him to.
he's making poor decisions.
Difficulty here is still gonna be 5, given the fact that these things are pretty resilient. Though I would consider the arrow, or the bolt sort of embedded in, and the thing starting to kind of bloom, with fire, to be an asset to you. So let's call it you'll be 5 - 1 basically.
All right, so I did just realize, and I think it means that I may have been screwing this up the entire time we've been playing, but I'm trained in magic training. So does that mean when I do magic shit, I just always get a bonus?
You mark it trained, yes.
All right, cool. All right, so 2 assets then. Doesn't matter. I still fail.
Shit.
Oh no.
Wait, okay, how? Oh, okay, yeah. It beats difficulty 2, but not difficulty 3. All right, yep. Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right, so narrate the song or whatever.
Oh, do I have any EXP? That's a good.
We're supposed to tell him that.
2 of those.
Please stop telling him that.
I will spend one of those EXP, and that just causes a reroll.
It does. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Johnny, you can GM Intrude and give us XP whenever you want to do whatever you want.
I'm gonna have to.
There's a tool.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kill us today, guys.
Perfect. There's a tool in game, and it's Johnny, and he can do whatever he wants with it.
Excellent.
Love you.
Yeah. So to follow up on what you said, Johnny, about like what this sounds like, I think this is like a total change in the music, right? Is like it goes from this that subtle stealthy thing that he was doing to this just big horn noises, and kind of like what you would imagine for a more like frantic action scene if it was being played by like a big orchestra in a movie, right? Kind of frantic big horns type thing, and so yeah, he's just blaring it as he's causing the fire to spread. Oh, you know what it's like?
What is it like, Sam? Tell us.
Oh, God damn it. Mike. Oh man. I was thinking of the scene in Fantasia where everything's catching on fire because he's bad at magic.
Ooh.
With Mickey Mouse, where the
Good
horns start rising as everything catches on fire.
All right, that totally works. So massive, shift and change in sort of the feeling as the natural sort of feel of the wind sort of noise kind of dissipates as this more sort of blaring noise happens, right? And you're not making any attempt to actually hide the fact that this is. You're actually just trying to get this thing to actually catch using sort of like the natural sort of energy that goes along with the magic of Thra, right?
Yeah. I'm giving it a magical energy boost.
All right, so it you can see there the bolt where it's like stuck in, it's like half broken off and stuck in. You can see that as you begin to play the noise, the horn, the entire thing begins to glow bright orange red, and just from there, this part of the body begins to burst into flames as if it's like really beginning to spread. The shell itself does not begin to burn at all, but the flesh under and everything else begins to show like the color of orange and purple, and it begins to just kind of spread across the body as this thing begins to squeal and click and like slam, and just it's starting to slam its claws sort of up and down as it's trying to figure out what it's doing, and it's starting to spin. But as that noise begins to come from that particular monstrosity, the other one turns at the noise of the horn that you're blaring kind of like stops what it's doing, looks over at its companion, and immediately starts to charge forward into the grove of trees where you are currently situated. So that's going to be a GM intrusion. You're going to take a point of XP, and you're going to give an XP to somebody else.
If you want, or you could spend your remaining XP and so tell Johnny to fuck off.
No, I'll take it. Cherry, you can take an XP.
You can tell me to fuck off because I've got something else coming in that direction.
No,
too.
I'll take the XP.
All right, so this thing is beginning to charge in your general direction. It doesn't have sight of any of you, but it is just beginning to move forward fast as the other one is beginning to flail and scream. And as that's happening, the noise coming from the village begins to diminish, the smashing and the sort of clicking and chittering sounds. What are you guys doing?
Does it sound like they're all coming towards us, or?
You can't actually tell. You can't tell from the noise because this thing in front, the thing that's on fire, where the fire is beginning to spread across its body, is sort of squealing and trying to, and it's just making all kinds of noise.
Sure.
All that you hear is that the loud clicking and chittering has stopped, in the sort of in the grove of trees where the village is, and the smashing has stopped. All the sort of cracking and smashing of things has stopped as well.
Okay, and one not on fire is charging at us.
And the one not on fire that was investigating with the other one has turned, realizing where the noise is coming from, and it is charging in your direction.
How far away is it?
Oh, it's about probably a good 100 feet at this point.
Dope. Let's do dumb shit, because that's what my specialty is.
You do your dumb shit, and if that doesn't work, I have a dumb idea too.
Cool. There are
I'm really concerned about all the dumb ideas.
There are ropes that we used to yank us up here, right? And there are ropes kind of hanging all around.
We had the same dumb idea.
Yeah, we did.
That was what I was thinking too,
we had
actually.
two, my rope and his. Yeah. I'm rigging myself up at this point.
I'm basically looping the rope around my waist and like cinching it to myself, so that way like I can.
I'm gonna do mine, turn and see his is shitty and fix his.
Perfect. Like I tied mine and then pulled my sword out and messed it up a little bit.
I've handed the arrows to Velfa at this point, so she's gonna light them and like toss them to you or whatever. She can do that, but
yeah.
While
go ahead.
If I remember correctly, Velfa is quite adept at wielding a quarterstaff, so I don't know if I'd take her out of the fight like that.
It was a stick.
She has the club. I think I gave her my club.
We have no idea how well she wields an actual weapon, but she wields a mean stick.
And a backpack.
Yeah.
So while Nock was doing his shit, I took another foot on each end of my quarterstick and wrapped it in rope. And I'm gonna light it on fire before I drop myself down.
I'm attempting to. Are you dropping down before the thing gets here?
Yeah, because all I could do is punch and hit it with my quarter strap.
You had the dumber idea than the two of us. I'm going to wait. My plan is to wait until it gets up to us, and then I want to jump. And here's where my dumb thing comes in: land on it, Johnny, and stab it in its stupid, twitchy, bug-eyed head.
Alright, we're doing the dumb together.
Stupid Gartham.
All right, so as they begin to move, as the two of them begin to make their dumb attacks possible, what are Nock and Velfa
It's okay
doing?
when we call it dumb.
Oh yeah, right. I'm sorry. I can't wait to use some GN intrusions against this. This is gonna be fun.
Nock is going to turn to Toll and Alua and say, "What are you doing?"
We have to kill it. It can cleave a building open, so I'm pretty sure it can take this tree down.
And I'm not letting all these podlings die.
Yeah.
What she said.
Well, Velfa's just like holding like the candle, and she's just like, it's such a what the fuck moment. Just kind of looking at everyone like, the fuck?
The candle and a bundle of arrows. Like, what am I going to do with this?
What in the hell is happening?
What should we do?
Keep them safe. If we don't make it, get the knowledge to where it needs to go.
Do you remember when we first met and I gave you, both of you, one task?
I do remember.
What was the task?
So Knock definitely would remember, but Sam fully does not.
Stay alive, don't die.
Don't die.
It was one of
the
those.
only
Yeah.
task that he gave you.
Knock would remember. I don't.
Yeah. That's what I want you to focus on. That one task.
So as he says that, Velfa has like an image in her head from the many books that she reads, and she's holding the candle and the arrows. She's gonna lean over and she's gonna kiss Tol on the cheek. Don't die either.
Oh my.
Hey.
I'll. Okay. And he gets very flustered and then just walks to the edge of the platform, like too early, right? Like the thing's 80 feet out and he's just now standing there awkwardly, and you can't turn around now because everyone saw this happen. It's like when you go to walk off the elevator, but it doesn't open, and you're just like,
it's not opening.
I live at the front of the elevator now.
Knock is going to say quietly, but definitely not quietly enough for Tol not to hear. That made him very uncomfortable.
Felfa was trying to be helpful. I'm not sure if that was as helpful as she thought it was.
Well, all these works in the books.
That's fair.
Let's just end the episode right here. That's
perfect.
We've done all we can do.
So good.
Okay. This thing is swinging around,
so perfect.
Charging. Who's jumping in first to do something? Like, which of the two of you is going to make it happen?
I'm going to be a dumb fire pinata, so yes. I'm jumping first.
I also think that since we didn't discuss the plan, Tol just assumes that Alua had the same plan as him, and when she leaps first, he goes, "Oh." And watches her just nosedive.
Living off.
Yeah.
In my head, my harness like catches me, and I'm just holding my stick, like trying to attract its attention to me and not the tree. So in Alua's mind, she's putting herself between the tree and the monster.
Okay. So
and she's hoping Tol knows what the fuck to do with that.
Are you making any noise to go along with this?
No, but I got a quarterstaff flame on both sides, so it's kind of obvious where I am.
I'm just curious if there's like something like you're yelling along with this, but okay. So as you're kind of like swinging around and you're attracting this thing shifts its attention, and its eyes first move, and they're just these two like purple dots that you can see in the darkness that kind of shift in your direction, and this thing continues to kind of turn and move forward. As you can see in the background, the flames are continuing to catch on the one that has the bolt sort of like with the fire sort of catching, and it's just continuing to consume and flail and scream. And this one comes moving towards you, and it's probably within about 10 feet of you now as it's charging, giving Tol a moment to actually do whatever the hell he's going to do before this thing charges and attacks Alua.
Yeah.
Johnny, I'm going to jump and land on its goddamn head.
Roll it, buddy.
What am I rolling here?
I feel like this is a speed roll of some kind.
Speeder, yeah.
Dope.
Speed.
Okay, to land on it? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, you're attempting to get on this thing, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if you want me to roll for jumping or roll for attacking.
Well, if you want to attack this thing, then it's going to be difficulty 5. If you want to land on top of this thing and then try to attack it, I say it's going to be a difficulty 3, because you're not trying to land in a blow. You're basically, landing on top of something that's moving like, ridiculously fast, but also is a big target.
Like I'm video gaming this. I'm coming down with the sword on its back. Is my goal here. So you tell me what difficulty you want.
Yeah, that's going to be a 5, buddy.
Perfect. Okay, I am trained in jumping and balancing, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my cutlass, and 1 point in it's difficulty 5. Submit. I'm going to spend 1 effort. I am going to have 1 asset because I'm trained in it.
as soon as Toll jumps off, and like as he's like pulling this stunt off, Nock will like turn and look at Velfa and just be like, "Don't worry, I'm sure he's done this before. It would be insane otherwise."
Question: does a hot flaming Alua give me an asset?
If it gets close enough.
Flaming hot Alua.
I'm aiming for its head because I assume it's coming to me head first.
Like does the surprise?
Does the distraction?
Does the distraction? Up to you. I'll throw a whatever kind of point at it I need to if I need to.
You don't have to. It's a distraction. Yes, go ahead and take it.
Hell yeah, boys.
Derpy pinata fire.
Oh, 17. Get some. Bonus 1 damage. Suck it, stupid crab monster. Hate you.
How much damage does your sword do?
It does 4 damage plus 1.
All right. So as you're coming down, narrate us from the moment that this thing gets right under you, and you do the whole like jump and basically try to pin this thing.
Yeah. So I think there's the whole scene of Alua jumping on fire, and Toll goes, "Oh," and then watches the thing move in towards her. And then he like leaps forward, like knowing that the rope's gonna swing him back down, and like onto this moving thing with the blade down, and just sort of lands like square on its back. He's not aiming for like a weak point here because it's easier to land on the middle of the shell, and he just drives the blade into the shell and just sort of into whatever back meat this crab monster has.
Well, so the blade actually comes down in such a way that you're anticipating landing on the shell and doing that. But the thing kind of starts to rear up a little bit as that's happening, and the blade actually kind of slices in back along the neck a little bit, and then kind of gets kind of bumped off to the side. So what happens is the blade kind of comes in, slices the neck on the sort of the right hand side of this thing, but as this thing is continuing to rear up, there's going to be a GM intrusion where it's the blade kind of goes in, does the damage, but then this thing kind of goes like this, and you get thrown back. And so you're going to take 1 XP, and you're going to give someone XP to somebody else, unless you want to spend, an XP for this. But the blade kind of comes flying with you as you're going back, and you can see that there's blood just beginning to flow from this thing a little bit as you're thrown off, but you're like thrown back a couple of feet as this thing rears up.
I'm going to take the XP, and I'm going to awkwardly give it to Kitty, or to
Yes.
Wait, if he gets tossed, does that mean since he's still like tied by a rope that he just like swing?
Oh yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about that.
If he's still tied by a rope, it's up to him.
I am. It is definitely around my waist.
Because Alua's gonna do this like Peter Pan thing where she like swings herself backwards and then forwards, and she's aiming to hit it real hard with the quarterstaff.
All right, I think
the rope is long enough that we were on the ground with it, so I think if it throws me, I definitely do swing, but I come and like slide into the ground on the swing back towards a tree.
A foot or two off the ground. I'm Peter Panning.
Love it.
All right, so when you land on it, there's a little bit of slack on the rope as you make your slice, and it kind of throws you back. It throws you back with so much momentum that the rope goes taut, and you are swinging back as Alua. It sounds like you're swinging back and kind of moving forward with momentum.
Yeah.
This kind of feels like okay. I feel like you deserve an asset for the idea of viewing the motion, so you should take that. But the difficulty is still going to be 5.
Okay. If I want to spend an XP point, how do I add that in?
Spending an XP for what?
I guess I should do that if I need to reroll. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can spend an XP to reroll, or you can spend an XP to do a player intrusion, which is kind of the same thing as what Johnny does to us. Like, you need an item that isn't there that was described.
It's all right. I got this.
Nice. All right. So describe to me what it's like as you push yourself back and then kind of swing forward into this, and then I'll describe what happens for this thing.
I'm swinging back, so my forward motion, it's coming under my arm, the second flamey bit, and I'm hitting it like smack in between its spider eyes.
Okay.
And if there's any sort of hair or whatever, depending on how you have your crappy spiders, I'm trying to like light that on fire and just hit it with head trauma more than anything.
Yeah, there's no crappy hair on this crappy weird
head trauma is more important, but I figure the fire scares it a little at the least.
All right, so you take your swing, you come around, and as you hit this thing, you hit it right square, sort of like in what you perceive as the head between the eyes. The thing blinks and drops a little bit as it's just kind of like it looks like it goes prone for just a second, as if you kind of like you've dazed it a little bit, but you can hear that it's sort of clicking and sort of chattering a little bit as it's doing its thing. I just realized we actually didn't roll initiative. So we should probably have you guys do that now.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, you know what? I think initiative's great.
I like just being first.
Do you?
I don't care what order.
What's the difficulty?
There is no difficulty. Oh, sorry. The difficulty is 5. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. That was not my roll. Oh, my roll is still pretty good.
Your roll is still pretty good.
Are we all rolling? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
What are we rolling under?
Initiative.
You should have it in your
top of your space.
Oh, yeah. Difficulty 5?
Mm-hmm.
No,
sorry, Malfa.
Oh, that was a face.
It's okay. All it means is you act after the monster.
That's fine.
All right. Means is you're eating.
So, Johnny, that was a surprise round, right? So now not gonna get.
Now it's a surprise round. Now we're actually moving into combat. All right, so let's hear between Nock and Toll. Who wants to go first, and what do they want to do?
Nock, go for it.
Okay. Well, Toll told us to stay in the tree and make sure that the podlings don't die. So since I don't have any long-range weapons and my magic is just about used up, I will take a moment to try to listen to the music of Thra and communicate with the nature around me. And I know Velfa's book learning couldn't identify these creatures, but maybe my kind of innate sense of nature and the creatures around us might be able to do the trick instead.
Sure, buddy. We're going to call that a difficulty 5.
Cool. I am trained in knowing the musics of Thra, and so I will roll. I did not do so hot on that one.
Right. So as you begin to kind of tap into this thing, you tap into the world around you, and you get a sense. You learn a couple of things that are quite troubling, but none of it actually helps you. The first thing you begin to note is that there are actually 2 distinct resonant sounds coming from this body, this creature that's kind of moving forward. Every creature, every plant, every piece of the world has a unique sort of melody or rhythm or signature or what have you. And what you're getting from this thing is 2. And it's not just dissonant, it's confusing because it's like 2 different melodies playing in 2 different time signatures that isn't matching up. But when you kind of like your attention kind of begins to pull back a little bit from it, you realize that there's like this more fundamental rhythm that's going on from these 2, sort of distinct dissonant pieces. That's the first part. The second is that you hear the multiple versions of this thing coming. You hear the screaming coming from, the one beyond it, right? And so that one begins to kind of turn and shift, and it's added with like a volume because of the fact that it's on fire. But the other ones that you hear in the distance are moving closer.
I will say to Velfa, they better hurry up. There are more coming.
Yeah. She's got a little candle. She's terrified.
She's so adorable. Save us, Velfa. Okay, I guess that makes it my turn.
That makes it not our Toll's turn, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's just double down on the dumb shit. So like I got launched off the back of this thing. I swung back and I sort of skidded into the ground. So I'm standing on the ground holding this rope. I see Alua is facing down with flaming staffs. This thing's doing its cha-cha-cha-chas. I'm going to run the opposite direction from this thing to the extent of the rope until it like launches me kind of in the air, and then on the backswing I'm gonna hit the ground and run, right? Like, you know how when you're swinging and you get that extra little oomph, and I'm going to run again straight at this Gartham and ball up, and basically I'm going to come in like a wrecking ball and smash into this thing. My goal is to topple it over. Looks like it's top heavy and round on the top, so it should boom.
Using your body?
Using my body.
It's got like a shell.
I don't have. I mean, Sam.
Unless you've got something that you think is going to work for this, that sounds like a might roll.
It's for sure a might roll. Would being trained in might defense help me?
If you can justify it for me, I might give that to you.
I can't. It was a stretch to begin with.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Wait a minute. Sam was the one who was pulling apart monsters with his bare hands, robotic monsters with his bare hands. I'm going to give Sam an opportunity. If Sam can come up with a way that might defense might apply here, I might still give it to you.
No. That makes no sense.
Yeah, no, for sure not. Yeah, so this is a difficulty 5?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I don't even know what to roll here.
Roll might roll.
I'm just gonna roll straight up. I'm gonna roll straight up might. Yeah.
Yep.
Where is my thing? Difficulty is 5. Submit. I'm going to spend 1 effort on this. Submit. No assets. Love. No. Okay. Submit. Failure. I'm gonna spend a thing. I'm gonna spend an XP because I got a bunch of them.
Are you sure you want to spend XP?
I do. Yep.
Are you sure? It's okay if you don't want to. I totally get it.
I didn't.
I tried to tell you.
You know what? I'm gonna spend 1 more XP.
I hope you fail again at this point.
Shut up, Sam. Shut your dirty mouth,
Thank you
Sam.
for rooting for.
Suck it, Gartham. Oh yeah. I'm gonna Miley Cyrus that bitch.
Suck it, Gartham.
That's a quote.
I can't go.
I came
Right.
in like a wrecking ball.
So it's just tell me what it looks like when you ball up and hit this thing. And
it is comical. He like sees everything. He grabs the rope, right, like freaking cliffhanger style, and just runs back the other way. Gets like some air in him, and then as soon as his feet touch the ground, he's like, and then he runs, and then as soon as it arcs up again, he just jumps and balls up and holds the rope and just slams into the side of this thing, and it like just has enough momentum to like start to like tip it over like a Jeep. And he just boom, and he just is on its back. Like
to be fair, we are Muppets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just see this thing. It's after the moment where Alua just kind of clocks this thing right between the eyes, and it's sort of stunned there for a second. Gives you perfect opportunity to kind of do this, but as it's as you kind of slam into the side of its thing, you could see that it's like claws or it's monstrous claws are trying to kind of do their thing, and it just kind of tips over and falls, and you can see the underside of this thing for the first time, and it's got like 12 legs. It's just kind of weird and creepy under there, as there's like the legs are just kind of doing this kind of a thing, and it's
Weird,
just,
creepy, soft.
I don't know. I think you're going to have to find out there, Alua. But so it's just like it's lying on its side, and it's prone, and it's trying to kind of figure out, and it's kind of rolling, and it's just kind of making this movement as it's. And I'm assuming that you just kind of like slide back a little bit, your momentum of the wrecking ball.
I just kind of like smash into this thing and probably just slowly like slide back and then stand on the ground. Which makes it the struggling Gartham's turn.
Right, exactly. So the struggling Gartham is just going to get kind of rights itself up, right? And it kind of scrambles and kind of shifts and kind of gets back onto its legs, and it's kind of off balance for a second, looking really just, sort of uncertain in the environment, in the situation. And that's going to be its action. However, the other Gartham, the other thing in the background, you can see that it's kind of flaming, kind of turns a little bit, and it's still continuing to flail, but the flames are starting to kind of die out a little bit on this thing. And you can see that like the right side of it under the shell is really burned and sort of smoldering, and you can smell this really sort of like weird sort of cooked meat smell. But it's like it hears the action that's going on in that general direction, and kind of turns and begins to kind of move in that direction slowly, as it's moving at about half of its speed towards the grove of trees. The screaming is starting to diminish a little bit, but it's still kind of clickering and chattering and making in its direction, and it's still on fire. And now it becomes either Velfa's or Lua's turn.
Kitty, are you good, or do you need a moment?
Lua can go first.
Okay. I could either take a look and see if it's soft, or just fucking whack the thing.
You might get lucky depending upon how you whack at this thing.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm leaning towards just whacking it. I'm still kind of Peter Panning it. So while he was moving forward, I like went back, and because I'm pretty adept at climbing, I just into the tree. And then when I see it hit its side, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna whack it on the underside, and that's either gonna, if I get a bonus, put it on its back. If not, it's just gonna hurt it.
Okay, so in the time that you kind of walked up and kind of you're beginning to make your move, it took its turn and it kind of righted itself. So
okay.
It shifted back onto its feet, and it's looking their days. It's definitely off balance still. It's still trying to recover from the serious wrecking that ball of a gelfling just gave it. But
ball of a gelfling. I'm just gonna try to hit it on its side this time, because like where the arrow was, maybe try to relight the arrow. Because I'm gonna aim for the soft fleshy bit, I guess. Then
on the second one,
case,
because this is the one that charged. The other one that's like was on fire is beginning to slowly move in that direction of the grove of trees where the two of you or the four of you are. So,
okay, yeah, I'm getting them confused. Sorry. Just the one that he just hit. Then I'll worry about the next one on the next turn.
Okay.
Difficulty
5, unless you're so tell me what you're doing. Are you swinging back down at this thing?
I'm letting go of the tree, swinging in, and just hitting it as hard as I can with my quarterstaff again.
Take an asset. This is difficulty 5, but take an asset for your momentum.
Okay. And I add that to regular effort, not effort to roll. Or no, asset. Hello.
Yeah, add it as an asset.
Boy. Yes.
All right. How much damage does your quarterstaff do?
4, and I've hit it twice.
Yeah. So you come in again, and as you come and swing into this thing, as the quarterstaff kind of comes down, because this thing is sort of off kilter, it just takes this. It has the same basic effect that the wrecking ball had, except that you also get the added benefit of damage, because the thing was so off balance and unsettled that it only righted itself and then immediately is back on its feet. And as you get a better look at this thing as it's kind of knocked off onto the ground, and the feet are just kind of going like this, you can see that it looks like a softer underbelly, that there's armor parts all over this particular thing, like its claws, and the arms and everything are all mostly sort of like covered in some sort of like carapace, but the underside,
in my brain, it's like a hermit crab. That's the best IRL comparison.
Right, exactly. So there's a nice sort of soft underside where the legs are, and the shell definitely has its limits in respect to protecting its body. So it gives you a kind of a moment to assess that as we jump to Velfa and figure out what she's actually doing.
So in this, I'm going to be honest, Velfa isn't the most useful.
But there was that stick in the Rakita where you just kept hitting the Rakita.
Yeah, but isn't she still up in the tree?
She's
Yes,
up
she
in the
is.
tree, but
Mhm.
she has a group of podlings behind her. You have options.
And a candle.
Is she gonna yeet the
So-
podling at them?
And the candle's definitely a good idea.
Set a podling on fire, yeet it at him. New plan. Oh wait, maybe not. I mean, they're already making noise anyway, so if you want to see,
Molotov cocktail.
I could see you like talking to them, or I don't know. You're the smart one. This is your move.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because what I'm seeing is like I think she's kind of terrified right now because she's never been the most brave unless she's like in there in it and she's kind of up and away from everything.
So you do see the second one attempting to make its move slowly in the general direction of the grove of trees. If you wanted to do something to try to either warn or affect or like hinder it in some way, that's one of the suggestions that I would make for you to do. Or just this is her moment to kind of work through and shine.
Okay, this might not be the best idea. Was she left with any rope up there?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. This isn't gonna work great, but she's gonna kind of like start to she's gonna get this rope and she's gonna start to try and like cut it into like pieces, right? I don't know if I need to roll for this, but she's essentially gonna take these lumps of rope, light it on fire, and start trying to like fling them out to try and like draw attention to this other one, and probably like get the podlings to kind of help her. And it's not going to go very far, but just to kind of a little something that she can do in the moment while not leaving where she is.
It's something.
What do you were attempting to distract the second one is what you're trying to do?
Yeah, or like get them to like see that, like it's there.
Oh, you're trying to inspire.
She's like trying to inspire and like point out at the same time, I guess.
Yeah.
Point out to the podlings?
Point out to us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But the podlings are, she might be like looking at them like, anybody got some ideas? Yoink.
Yeah.
Type of, that's what I'm
Start giving them rope and fire to throw things to, I don't know, to defend themselves and fight what they have.
This seems like the kind of thing, let's see, let me take a look at the character sheets real quick. Hold on just a second. To me, this probably seems like a speed roll of some kind, unless you can think of anything else, you guys, to just like kind of cause, to get some sort of like acknowledgement. Unless, I don't know, I'm kind of at a loss of here to how to do this.
Well, if she's trying, I would think almost like if she's trying to throw it and get any kind of distance with it,
Makes sense to me.
I can see that.
Okay, so let's do that then.
Okay. And what's the difficulty?
This one's going to be really easy for you. It's going to be a difficulty 2 because you're not directly attacking anything. You're just trying to gain attention.
Woo.
Oh, nice.
All right. Wow.
18.
Velva,
All right.
played softball in Hurrah.
Velva has a mean arm from lifting books, man.
Gelfling High School.
Right. She was she lettered in.
She's got that nerd book lifting strength.
All right.
You're in that dumb backpack around.
The backpack is what it is.
So just kind of give me a general description of how you go about, like, what is the actual action of doing this, and then I'll kind of acknowledge what the rest of them see.
Okay. So as Velva's looking out and she's holding this candle and she's got these arrows and she doesn't really like know what she's going to do, and she's in a panic, and it kind of like clicks on her when she looks over and she sees this rope, and she begins to sort of hack at it, cutting it into pieces and lighting it in, and starts to just throw the rope out to where the monster is. So you would probably see just like little like things of fire coming from the tree.
So Alua, what you see as you come slamming into this thing and it kind of drops to the ground, and you're observing this, you see this like weird sort of like streak across your vision. And it just kind of catches your eye, and you look over and you realize standing behind Toll over 100 feet away is the flaming sort of hulk of the second one of these things, kind of beginning its slow crawl in your direction.
Okay. So do you want me to do something in reaction, or should I wait for my turn?
Well, do you say anything about that, or because the top of the initiative order is coming again, so you get a moment to react to this particular situation. But
how hurt is the one that I just bashed in the head?
It looks pretty dazed and is bleeding a little bit, but it still looks pretty resilient at this point.
I'm probably gonna yell something at Toll to the effect of, "This one's yours now. I'm gonna focus on the next one."
I think
probably about all I can do.
I think Nock is gonna shout down and be like, I think it may be time to go. As you pointed out, you cannot kill all of them.
Well, now it's the top of the initiative order, so Nock and Toll, it's up to you guys.
Nock will wait to see what Toll is doing.
So, just curious. So there's the one that I knocked over, is back up, it's still alive, right? And then
I whacked it in the head again.
Right, and then there's the one charging on fire. But we don't see any of the other ones charging towards us currently.
You do not see anything else. The noise has stopped, but you actually don't know what the other ones are or what they're doing.
Okay, I have an idea.
Go for it now.
I have 2 moderately priced and 3 inexpensive items of my choice. For one of my inexpensive items, I would like to have a bottle of the Gelfling brew stuff, and I will use the candle and the Gelfling brew to make Molotov cocktail to launch
Damn it, chat.
this thing.
Chat needs to stop talking about Molotov cocktails. I'm going to say that right now. Damn it.
I mean, they got the idea from what Velva did. So.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay.
In the best way.
There's no Gelfling Geneva Convention, so I'm going for the fire weapons.
Well, technically, when you guys actually left Stone in the Wood before the story started here, they were having literally the Geneva Convention sort of like event of their existence, their society.
Well, if they ban fire weapons, I'll change my modus operandi. Until then, for the
fuck these guys.
All right, so yeah, can I do that?
Yes, you can totally do that.
All right, I'll give it a heave ho.
And you're throwing it at the second one or the first one?
The one that's oncoming.
The one that's on fire. Okay, sounds good.
I'm gonna show him what happens if you charge us. You get burning liquid on you. What's the difficulty of hucking this over there?
So this thing is moving slower than it was before, so it's difficulty 5 plus an asset because this thing is impaired in some way.
Okay. Do I get an asset because I'm spending an item? I don't know how that works. That's like a rules question.
I don't remember, Mike.
There's no actual rule for that, but so that's up to Johnny.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and take it. Take it as another asset, or consider it a Cypher or whatever.
Cool. Boom!
Wow.
Wow.
Regret all
minor effect or +3 damage.
Yeah.
Please take the damage. Give it the damage.
Well, so the thing is,
was this
I
on
would
the
not
on fire one, or was this on the one below the tree?
It's
on
the
fire one.
On fire one.
He's helping me. You're gonna have to stab that other one.
That's fine. I was just curious.
All right. Now, tell me, Sam, describe this to me. What is this beautiful sort of like moment, this Gelfling moment of like Molotov cocktailness look like?
I think Nock like gets Velfa, like grabs Velfa's candle real quick, like lights the little bottle with something to I guess like a piece of he like rips a piece of his cloak or something because he's always got a billion pieces of clothing on. And he lights it on fire, hands her back the candle, and then just like hop and hucks it, and it like sails through the air and then lands. And it's like, you know, it's like a TV show, right? So it obviously like explodes instead of just like breaking and being fire. And it's a whole thing. It probably burns like a weird like greenish tint as well because it's like the Gelfling brew, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, and so this thing just like it lands, it's splatters everywhere, and things begin to kind of light on fire, including this thing as well. Describe to me the minor effect. Did you got a minor effect from that one? Or you can take the damage.
Can I have it do more damage? Yeah, I'll have it just take the +3.
All right, so this thing just kind of comes up around it, like it just like lands and splatters, and each of the legs catch independently on fire because there's something about this like Gelfling brew or whatever that's a little bit more viscous than like a normal sort of like brewed item, and so it sticks a little bit more, and the flames begin to kind of dance up as this thing continues to scream and charge forward as best as it possibly can, but it's moving so slow it can't move around the area. But as a GM intrusion, the side effect of this is that the area around is sort of grassy and dry and begins to catch flame.
Nice.
And so you're going to take 1 XP and give some XP to somebody else, unless you want to spend one and say, unless you want to refuse it. Sorry, you don't have to spend.
No, I like fire. I will take it. And Velfa, I borrowed your candle, so you can take the other one.
Okay.
All right. So that means it's now Toll's turn.
Cool. The on fire one's still super on fire, and the one who's not on fire is just here.
Right.
Yeah, and it's knocked prone right now.
Okay.
And Alua told you she's going after the
Yes.
fire
Alua
one.
looks like she means business to run for the other one, and hasn't considered the fact that she's tethered and floating off a tree. So
You're acting like I don't have my tool belt on and I don't have a plan.
okay, I was gonna say he's gonna run by and just chop
I'm a
your
fucking
rope.
Batman Gelfling. I
That's
have a
fair.
tool for it.
That's fair. In that case, I will not chop your rope. And
No.
he runs over to the toppled over Gartham, and I'm gonna give him some cutlass.
Where are you going to give that cutlass?
In his body, Johnny. It's toppled over, right? It's like it's turtled.
It's toppled over on its side right now, just like you had it before, and its legs are going thing.
Right in its middle bits. Get those things out of here. Cutlass. Cutlass Supreme. Difficulty 5. Do I have an asset for this?
Because it's prone, yes. Cool. Because you can see all of its little exposed little bits.
Cool bit boys. Bam.
Nope. My.
Nope. I feel like I'm running and I see like Alua is about to like do something, and then I see the grass light up, and that distracts me just enough that like one of the legs kicks and knocks my blade away from stabbing it. And that is my turn.
All right.
Useless.
Yep.
And so this thing
Sorry,
this
guys.
thing is, as that kind of happens, the reason that it kind of gets knocked is because this thing is able to swing itself in such a way as it begins to kind of right itself and is sort of off balance again as it's kind of like doing its thing, and its claws are doing this and you hear it chittering, but that sort of like that movement puts that leg in just the right space where it just kind of knocks your blade away and kind of sends you spinning away just a little bit. But you can see that this thing is like really still off balance and just kind of trying to figure out what the hell is going on. As the other one continues to kind of scream and move, but as it's like making its move and heading that direction, the flames finally kind of like catch straight to the lower part of the center body, and this thing all of a sudden just kind of begins to collapse as it's still moving, but it's just no longer able to act, like it's still like has motion, but is no longer moving forward towards you. But the body is continuing to kind of burn, and the smell is now of like really rancid sort of crab meat burning.
Love it.
Which I hear is gross.
Love it. Huge
All right.
fan.
So it now becomes Alua and Velfa's turn.
Yes. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Swing back to the tree, grip it, and then get ready to swing again. This time I'm going for the fire one.
Well, the fire one is still pretty far out. Like it's
still too far.
Like, yeah, it's like 50 feet out at this point, and
then,
it's now stopped moving altogether.
Instead of it stopped moving, like it's scared.
Yeah, like its body literally no longer can sustain itself moving on its legs because the fire has really done so much damage to it.
It's like crispy.
So it's starting to collapse.
Then instead of swinging back and grabbing the tree, I am going to use a tool that has a sharp edge. I don't want to identify it as a knife because that would be a weapon, and I don't have that. Just something to cut myself free. And I'm gonna. Did this thing correct itself, or is it still on its side? The one
it just righted itself back up, right? And you just as you noticed that Toll got sort of knocked back away as he was making his move in for the attack, kind of moving up.
I'm gonna go for the head again. Quarterstaff it one more time.
Yep, this thing because you're not using momentum at this particular time. You don't get the asset, so it's difficulty 5.
That's fine.
Nice. So you come around and you kind of swing on this particular thing again, and you nail it in its head, and it kind of sends it kind of rocking and reeling a little bit as it's again really dazed, but the momentum doesn't kind of take it off balance at this point.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of it takes the whack and it kind of turns a little bit. You see that like its shell is kind of moving more towards the direction where the attacks are coming in as it's taking this damage, and we move to Velfa.
Okay, so Velfa's gonna turn to Nock. Do you think we should try to get them out of there now? Like, out of this tree?
Who is them? Oh, them.
She looks at the podlings and points.
Yes. Yes. Good thinking.
She kind of looks at him expectantly, like to help, because she's. What? Maybe get the ropes and let's. And she's kind of gesturing towards the podlings. Still, like she's just a nervous mess.
It can't be me. I have terrible stage fright.
Okay. Keep in mind, Alua just cut herself off of her rope, so that's a rope available to you.
You'll have to tell them.
Okay, so she's gonna kind of roll her eyes at Nock and then turn around and we need to go. And she's looking at the podlings and trying to gesture.
Talk is the only one. Tog, not Talk. Couldn't think of Nock. Tog is the only one that's kind of paying attention to you. The rest of them are just hiding and kind of, tucking in deeper to the platform hiding spots that they have in this grove of trees. But Tog kind of looks at you and is just kind of waving his head no, and he starts waving his hands and kind of makes a bigger sort of a thing, and he points towards the grove of trees where the direction of the village is. You're going to need to convince him in some way to make this happen. So this feels like an intelligence roll, an intellect roll or something else like that. You've got a skill that might apply more directly. That makes sense. Otherwise, it's just basically you're trying to condense him. You're trying to communicate with him.
Okay, I'll do an intelligence roll as she's trying to convince them and kind of to get them out. What difficulty?
Difficulty 3.
Oh.
Wow.
But I can use an XP, right?
You sure can.
Yes. And you just got a bunch.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. All right. So give me the final sort of punch message that you express directly to Tog that kind of changes his mind and convinces him that he should be doing what you think is best.
Okay. Velfa takes a deep breath. She gets her focus fox and she's ready. And she looks at him like in the eye and very dead serious. If we don't go now, you're going to die. They're going to come and they're going to kill all of you. We have to go. We'll keep you safe.
And he stops like what he's doing and kind of looks at you as you're putting your focus on him. And he kind of looks and his eyes grow really wide and you hear him say, "Oh, Ito, go." And he immediately kind of like gets up, takes the rope off that he had tied around him, and immediately begins to crawl across and starts to spread the word to go. At first, there's a little opposition to the idea of it, but as he begins to yell and point towards the direction of the Gartham beginning to stand, that's readied itself and is beginning to kind of move, he points in the direction of the village and says something that's completely unintelligible. But at that point, the rest of the podlings begin to kind of like get excited and really begin to move and start to gather their things and make their direction, make their way off of these trees. And we're going to come back to the top of the initiative order, which then becomes Nock or Toll's turn.
Toll?
I'm going to attack. So I have a simple, quick thing.
Does it involve another cutlass?
It does. A cutlass supreme.
Right. Okay. Right.
It's still knocked over?
No, it's right itself. So now it's normal difficulty.
Right, I'm gonna spend one effort and ka-chow. Suck it. 5 damage. Actually, right. You know what? I'm going to. Does it kill it? Because if not, I'm going to do something else.
Oh no! It's still okay, looking cool. Pretty resilient.
I'm going to use my ability Thrust at the cost of 1 might point. This powerful melee stab. You make an attack and 1 additional point of damage, so 6 points of damage on its body.
Stabby stab.
All right, so narrate me into this. You see, this thing is kind of righted itself. It's starting to turn and shift based on the way that Alua had like hit it.
Yeah,
and it's beginning to kind of shift around. But as it's moving and making the shift, you see that like the shell and the other carapace pieces are kind of like exposing their gaps, and then they're kind of like contracting back in as it kind of begins to hunker down again. And then as it continues to move, it kind of expands and gives you a gap and kind of comes back in. So talk to me a little bit about how this attack goes off.
My attention was drawn to the flaming Gartham, and I've noticed that enough damage makes it basically immobile. And so as it like flips over and kicks me back, I charge back in and sweep the legs, Johnny. And I will attempt to slice some of its appendages until it stops moving.
All right. So as you kind of move in and you take that second slice as it's kind of shifting after Alua's hit, you take out. You notice that the legs all move in sort of this weird sort of like sequence of them, and some are up while others are down, and it's kind of shifting and turning, and you sweep and you get 3 of the legs, and it immediately kind of like lifts to the right hand side and kind of collapses. Yeah. as it's kind of like struggling, and you can see that it's still moving and it's taking its claws and trying to kind of push back up, but it's clearly struggling just to regain its footing at this particular point. And there is blood beginning, this sort of like weird sort of luminous purple blood is beginning to kind of flow on the ground over everything. And as that's going on, you see that there are little bits of like what I would say burn happening based on sort of the blood sort of beginning to spread as things sort of darken on the ground. You can barely see it in the moonlight, but there's clearly something off about this thing's blood.
I think in light of this, he looks to Toll looks to Alua and just says, "Run." Like these 2 things are immobilized, and we got to get the hell out of here.
To which point we come to Nock.
Mm-hmm.
Nock will be like to Velfa, "That was very impressive. Let's run."
Yeah, let's go.
And then we'll book it real good.
Alua's gonna run to Toll, cut him loose so he can run with her tool, even though he has a sword. just gonna do it for him anyway.
I like it.
Is the tree cover good enough where we can like hop branch to branch?
The
Well,
tree
there was
cover
like
is
2 next to each other, right?
well. So there was the tree cover was such that in the between the grove of trees that was going on here, some of the branches would allow for it, and there were some platforms that were kind of close. But most of the way across was using ropes, sort of like ropes strung between the 2 platforms, and you had to crawl across. But there were definitely plenty of ropes that are being used to kind of swing down as the podlings are all beginning to make their sort of like exodus from this grove and head north in the grass.
Yeah, we'll swing down then.
Okay, so the two of you, Velfa and Nock, you begin to swing down, and we're going to kind of come out of initiative for this, but there's still an opportunity for Alua at this particular point, since she seems to be the only one who was still directly engaging these things. So everybody, like all the podlings are beginning to drop, and you're hearing lots of screaming, and they're kind of pushing forward in the direction. You can see that this thing is trying to kind of lift itself up and kind of move like again, but it's still struggling just to get its footing. And that would be its like, so in the initiative order, that would be its move. It's just trying to kind of right itself up enough so that it's back on its legs, and it's barely balanced and struggling there, but it's clearly bleeding out.
As much as I'm tempted to whack it again, if it's clearly bleeding out, I'm just going to let that happen and take the time to run as well. And make sure Toll is with me and free of rope.
Okay, so you begin to follow essentially a trail of like bent over grass and things, as these podlings are all racing towards and making lots of noise, kind of racing towards the north, through the grass. And you hear the screams of the Gartham on fire as it's in its death throes, and it just kind of collapses over as you're all kind of looking back, and you can see that the other one is struggling to try to keep its feet, but it can't really do much else but click and chatter as it also eventually kind of collapses as you get far enough away from the grove of trees. But you can see that the grassland is starting to burn around it a little bit, and it's beginning to catch flames, and the flames are beginning to sort of expand. What are you guys doing?
Johnny, how close are we to the swamp of Sog? Or are we we're deep in the Sprighten Plains right now?
You are towards the southern side of the Sprighten Plains. You were starting to notice differences in a shift in sort of the environment, such that the swamp of Sog sort of the different types of like plants and trees and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You were starting to notice a shift in the land, and it was starting to get a lot more humid. This podling village was definitely on either the northern side of the Swamp of Sog or the very extreme southern side of the Sprighten Plains.
Okay. I want to use an ability that I have. It's called it's called the Mike gets to do whatever he wants ability.
Okay, yeah, we've heard this before. It's called Survivor's. Every other game is.
It's called Survivor's Intuition. You can come up with a random fact pertinent to the current situation when you wish. It is always a matter of fact and must be something you could have logically read or seen in the past. So I want to know, because I'm a hunter and that's kind of my jam, that if we kind of hook back towards the village, right? Like we go far enough around and back towards the village, there is a large tree towards the edge of the. I didn't know there was a village here, but I knew where the swamp was. There's a large tree, and very much like that scene in Lord of the Rings where they hide under the tree root, there's a burrow under the root that kind of descends into the ground of some creature that used to live there, maybe one that I hunted, that is big enough to possibly fit everyone under there. So that we can get there and hide.
Including the podlings.
At a minimum, the podlings or us. I'll give you that. It is big enough to fit a couple gelflings. So maybe, how many ever podlings there are.
Well, there's like 50 different podlings there.
Well, Johnny, Hiding
I was
some's
trying
better
to
than
tell you
zero.
the entire village was hidden there, up in those trees.
Hiding some is better than none.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where, I mean, rather than running out into the open plains, I think that's a slightly better option. Plus, there might be Gelfling in the Swampasog. So I kind of just state this. I might have a place to go. It's a long shot, but it might still be there.
Okay.
Great. And he starts to lead back towards, like, he starts to hook this caravan back towards basically the Gartham, kind of, just a distance away.
Okay, so describe to me. Okay, so you're kind of leading this particular charge. You're kind of navigating these podlings, and I'm just going to assume that you're able to rally them in such a way that they all sort of come under your sort of your guidance because of what Velfa was able to communicate with Tog. For the rest of you, what are the rest of you doing as you're kind of helping this caravan? Because it's obvious that Toll is like taking the lead here and being basically Aragorn and leading them through this sort of this patch of land. Tell me what the rest of you are doing.
I'm letting him take the lead. I'm put out my fire pinata stick and I'm heading up the back, trying to make sure nobody gets left behind. That's all I got.
Okay. Is it like, are they like still coming for us? Like, does it feel like we're being chased, or is it more like?
Are you actively trying to pay attention to that particular?
I would like to do that. I would like to actively pay attention to see if we're being chased.
Okay, as the rest of the group is kind of like making, the rest of the caravan is making its way. Give me a perception roll.
Is that a thing in this game?
It is.
Yeah, there's perception, assessing danger.
Okay, intellect. And what is the difficulty?
Difficulty for this is going to be a little challenging, but not too challenging. It's going to be a 3, and that's because there's a fire going on. You've got a bunch of like land between you and the trees and everything else. So I
am not feeling good right now. I'm just tired and have done too much magic, and I don't know.
I guess I can do that as well. I could do a perception or assessing danger.
I think an assessing danger is going to make more sense here.
That's what I'm figuring. Difficulty?
And it's going to be a difficulty 3.
Okay.
Excellent.
Success.
All right. So for Nock, he's tired and he can't really get a sense, like the vision of like the flames kind of burning and the trees and the shadows and everything else. It's really hard and distracting for you because you're feeling the fatigue from everything that's gone on. But for Alua, she's able to kind of calm herself and assess the situation, and she kind of steps up onto a rock and is able to kind of look back without being seen. And this is what the vision of what you see, like what you see sort of, standing there. You see the flames really beginning to spread to the grove of trees as the grove of trees begins to kind of like catch and go up. And the line of fire is getting to spread both to the left and the right of like your vision of like the area. And you can see the grove of trees, the larger grove of trees where the village was kind of burning and beyond. But standing in front of that larger grove of trees, but behind the fire line, are similar shapes to the Gartham that you just saw, these monstrous creatures, right? Mm. And they stand in a line trying to figure out, and they're all kind of shifting and moving a little bit. And you can see that there's about 16 of them kind of shifting and moving and kind of to try to figure out how to get around the fire, but they can't actually enact pursuit at this particular point.
Yeah, in the back of my mind, leaving things burning was our safety net. I feel like right now just periodically doing what I just did is probably the best thing, whether I have to scurry up a tree or whatever, because I have skills in climbing and stuff. But until I see them break that line, I'm not going to stop and try to make a trap or something.
Right.
Especially with such a wide girth that they could come at us from.
Sure. So
I might just yell something to Toll as like, nobody can stop. We have to keep going. There's 16 I'll just yell 16. and hope he knows what that means.
So he told you and the rest of the group really kind of push towards, and you're forced to travel throughout the night, and it's hard keeping up with the stragglers. All the podlings are tired. They're complaining now because it's been a couple of hours, but you kind of push on doing this wide arc. And so you make your way sort of westward, along, what you know to be where the edge of the Swamp of Sog is. And you first, you kind of like stretch out west, and then you begin to move south, and the land begins to kind of shift as it becomes, denser with foliage and different types of trees. And the humidity begins to kind of increase until it becomes a little, overwhelming. And, it's just, it's beginning to get a little uncomfortable. And you come to the place that you remember. Now, describe to us this location as you're like, it's on the edge of the Swamp of Sog.
Yeah, it's like, I guess if you mix the scene from Lord of the Rings with the scene you should know from Conan, right? So it is like there's a large tree, like I imagine like a large like I don't know, like a weeping willow tree, right? It's a swamp, right? So that's kind of what they are. But it's like it's one of its roots is exposed and like up, and there's like kind of earth on the backside of it, and there's like what looks like a hole in the base of this root. But he knows that if you go into that, there's like a den under there of whatever creature was in there. So he literally like runs up to this thing and starts kicking some of the dirt aside, because I assume, dirt's gotten in there since whatever this monster left. And he's basically kind of re-digging out a little bit of the burrow and just sort of ushering podlings into this thing, like lemmings, as best he can. Muted.
Yeah, I just noticed. So just as the last of these podlings are, kind of making their way in, the suns begin to rise. The brothers begin to rise and crawl into the sky as the sisters begin to leave. The moon's kind of setting, and the day begins to kind of light up, and the sky turns orange and purple and red, and then becomes sort of a bluish color as the brothers begin to climb. And with exhaustion, everybody really just kind of like crashes for the most part. You set sort of a watch, an initiative, just like there anything that you're doing to kind of like be weary, or are you just kind of all just collapsing in exhaustion?
I mean, I think Toll would do something. He would probably post up towards the entrance.
Yeah, same. And I have food, so I'll probably eat a snack.
Yeah. Actually, you know what?
I will share my snack. I have lots of snacks.
Toll will look like with like a sad eye towards Velfa and say, "Can I borrow your backpack?"
Okay. She drags it over.
I'm sorry about this. And he just picks up the backpack and jams it into the hole to get out of this den, to make a makeshift door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll make an actual door while we're watching stuff, but that'll be good for now, all right? You keep an eye on them and there, Belfa. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And
looks longingly at her backpack.
And he like puts a hand on her shoulder. I lived. And then he like removes the hand and then walks to the other side of this den.
Flushes red.
Anyway. And he starts like grinding his blade, right, with the whetstone.
Yeah, Alua will probably grab whatever weird bits of twine and wood that she can get from the tree and start building an actual door.
Wow. Okay.
I can roll a thing if you want.
No, that's perfectly fine at this particular point. So the podlings all begin to kind of get like agitated and a little nervous, and there's lots of fears, and there's whispers, and Pod just basically collapses into sleep, and one by one the other podlings all begin to kind of calm and chill, and then childlings of the podlings are begin to kind of like calm, and everybody begins to just kind of settle as the time begins to pass. That pursuit is no longer a thing. But Toll, just as you're like sort of drifting off a little bit and just kind of what's the word, you're kind of losing consciousness and kind of succumbing to your exhaustion, you begin to hear a noise kind of like a thumping coming from the roots in this little like of this place that you're hiding under this particular tree, this little den that you're in. You're hearing thumping.
So where is it coming?
It's rhythmic thumping, basically coming from the roof of this. Like, I'm imagining that this burrow is basically just dirt ground. It's a huge hollowed out burrow, but it's under the roots.
Yeah, think like a rabbit burrow.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think he, as quietly as possible, especially if he's the only one that has heard it yet, he like stands and moves towards the door and draws his cutlass and just sort of like puts a hand on this makeshift door and just waits to see what happens.
The thumping is closer to the door, but doesn't actually, like the thing doesn't shift. Oh wait, but there's like a 3 tap kind of a thing.
I don't think he's going to let anything in at this point. He's going to wait this out, right? Like, if nothing's going to break in, there's too many people here that are exhausted, that, they can't do another hard march like that. It's just not a thing that they can do, and they're podlings, so, like, there's not a lot they can do besides drink and farm. So, he's not about to start a new fight, so he's basically going to hold the door closed at this point.
There's a thump again, 3 times, and then you feel something kind of push against, and it kind of pushes this structure, whatever this is, whether it's the backpack with books or it's the door that Alua has kind of bound against. It's like pushing on it, trying to push inside.
I think like with the point of his cutlass, like still holding the door closed, he kind of just like pokes at Alua to try to get her attention, so that she is also aware of what's going on here.
Can I roll an assessing danger to see if I recognize what the noise is?
Or you sure can.
How big it is?
Sure.
What difficulty would you like that at?
Oh, this is a pretty good one, because you have no idea really like what you feel fears outside. So we're gonna go difficulty 4.
Okay.
How's that? How's that for a success?
I know exactly what it is.
Critical success.
Nice. All right. Wow. So you're thumping, you're hearing the thumping, and the rhythm catches you a little bit. Like that's familiar, and you see the pushing, but then you hear the thumping again, and you realize that it's actually a technique used by the Drenchen clan when acknowledging that, in a burrow, when somebody's actually hiding, in among the sort of the trees in the swamp, that this is a signaling tool to let friendlies know that other friendlies are moving through the area.
Oh, it's okay. Stop. Friends, what? Other Gelfling, open the door. It's okay.
And he will lift, I assume it like lifts up, like he'll lift up this door, and he still has his cutlass drawn, right? Because he's not a trusting person, to see what's on the other side.
And immediately there's this like overwhelming glare of light as it kind of comes in, as it's full day now. And at first, all you can see is you're kind of blinded, but your cutlass is still up. And as your eyes begin to adjust, there's a shape in the shape of a Gelfling, sort of begins to kind of like form. And as your eyes come into focus, you see the smile of a female Gelfling warrior, a Drenchen, kind of smiling at you as she reaches her hand in, and that's where we're going to end it.
Nice. Yes. I like it.
Friends.
I like it. We safe. Hell yeah. This was episode 4 of Age of Darkness. This was some cool shit. We've made it to the Swamp of Sog. Bless you, Sam.
He was able to mute. My throat just went.
So yeah, this has been episode 4. We've had a blast doing this. This is super fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. All the subs, all the follows, all the donations, all that fun stuff. Let's go around, do our introductions, and we'll get the hell out of here. And we'll see you guys next week. Let's start with Kitty. Kitty, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
Hi, I'm Awkward Kitty Inc. You can find me by that tag everywhere. I'm a freelance artist, illustrator. I also am a partner streamer on Twitch. I do a lot of role play. I make a lot of pretty things, and I like to have a good time.
Sweet. Let's jump over to Cherry. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
Cherry Bomb on Twitch and Cherry Bomb 7 on Twitter. I've been getting back into roleplay again on the GTA. I'm playing a new nurse. She's very special, very entertaining. She curses a lot, so she's not.
So you're playing you with an accent.
Yeah, kind of. But it's fun because she has like a big derpy family, so that's a new dynamic for me. But we're having a lot of fun doing that, but doing way too many hours. We'll probably have a tarot stream tomorrow sometime. So hit me up on Twitter to see what I'm doing when, and come to Twitch to see it all happening.
Hell yeah. Let's jump over to Sam. Sam, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
I am Sam. Twitch.tv/WizardFool, Twitter @TheWizardFool. I play role-playing games on other people's channels mostly, so I am going to be on Outro One's Twitch channel on Sunday playing Mothership. I'm also doing a Battle Tech thing with AP Gaming Real that goes up on his Patreon and then up on YouTube later. We just finished our second little session 0 where we figured out our mechs and our characters and the noble houses and everything that we're dealing with. And next time we're going to go out, and I'm convinced that in the first episode, all 3 of us are about to lose our battle mechs, and then the rest of the game is going to be about like trying to figure out what the fuck we do now. But we'll see. We're going to find out. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm here for that game. And last but not least, Johnny, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
I'm here. I am in a little thing called Dark Fortunes Podcast that we're going to be recording the first full cast together thing this weekend. I will be posting a little bit on Twitter, talking a little bit about what the prep for that is over the next 2 days, because I have some fun things in mind for these guys. Also recording another podcast that we'll have details about at some point in the future. And that's it for now, although we'll have a couple things to talk about in the future. So that's me. Video Store Cowboy everywhere except for Twitter, where it's Vid Store Cowboy. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here. Like Johnny said, please go check out Dark Fortunes Podcast. We released our second episode Monday. It was all about me. So you should go watch it because I'm neat.
Who?
Me.
Who?
I'm just playing me. I'm not even playing a character.
Some nerd.
It's just me.
That's every game.
So yeah, go check it out. It's super cool. We're playing animals and we're adorable and also pirates, and it's also going to be gritty and dark. So combine all those things. Check out Dark Fortunes. And I think that's it from all of us to you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.